I already did this whole like speech thing, and I realized I hit the OK button, not the record button. That was funny. But anyways, what I'm doing here is I'm going out and I'm going for a drive, and I'm going on the same path that I always go on, which is just it circles the town, and it's half paved road, half dirt road. I need to shut this off actually. There we go. So it's half paved road, half dirt road. There's probably about 4 lakes that I actually drive by. So there's lots of opportunity for wildlife, birds, waterfowl, stuff like that. So I'm just going to ramble on, and you could listen to me about what I do when I'm driving, where my gear is, really stupid obvious things like wind your window down before you take pictures, and maybe you could get something like this going, and maybe these tips will actually help you. I don't know, but let's just get to it anyway, and maybe we'll actually see something too. Okay, so before I go any further, I just want to kind of show you how I'm driving around, okay? I have my camera on my lap. I always have my camera on my lap, and that way if I need to, I could just quickly wind down the window, grab my camera, which I've adjusted my settings beforehand. I personally shoot on aperture priority, and just basically go from there. Autofocus single. I have a 70 to 300 millimeter lens on my camera because it's light. I could grab it, I could shove it out the window, and I could maneuver it real easily. You don't necessarily want to get into having a 300 or 400 millimeter lens. I'm not really sure where you would put it because they are massive, and you would also need some sort of window mount or beanbag to sturdy the thing. So a 70 to 300 for driving around is fine, especially since most of the animals are on the side of the road when you do see them. So that's not very far. And if they aren't on the side of the road, it's usually so thick that, depends. But on the other side of me, on the passenger side, my camera bag, which is open and readily accessible. I could grab my camera out of there real quick if I forgot to put it on my lap, or if you're just not driving with your camera on your lap because you're not expecting to see wildlife, you're probably on your way to work or something. But I always have the camera bag open. But the main thing here is you want to drive with the camera on your lap. You don't need a $2,000, $5,000, okay, 400 mil f4 prime lens. You really don't. It's going to make your life way more difficult. A 70 to 300, the 55 to 300, okay, this video is more or less for beginners here. So the 55 to 250 by Canon, any of these entry-level telephoto lenses are going to work just fine. So you basically just want to go for a drive. That's all you're doing, because you're never going to see anything if you're just sitting at home watching Reba. Okay, you're just not going to see anything. So just go for a drive. Just pick a dirt road, or pick a road that's got a lot of fields, for example, and go for a drive. And I'm just going to say real quick too, you don't need to be all camouflaged out if you're in a vehicle. Most animals are used to vehicles. Today I'm driving a 2002 Chevy Silverado, but I'm usually driving my Jeep, and I usually have the doors off. And when an animal sees me roll up real slow, put it in neutral, roll up real slow, come to a nice, soft, slow stop, they're looking at me like they don't know I'm separate from the vehicle. I'm not dancing around. Oh, look at me. Like, use common sense, like move slow and quietly, but if you're part of the vehicle, you're just part of the vehicle to them. The second I step out, they're all like, whoa, what the, and they're out of there, right? So wind the window down slow, stick your lens out slow, everything will be okay. You don't have to put a camouflage blind right here and it's all camoed out and then you have a pink vehicle. It doesn't really make any sense, okay? Like, unless your vehicle's camouflage as well, but still. The other thing too, in my experience, which is about a week, no, I'm kidding, about 8 years, but in my experience of doing this, they're a little more comfortable with the engine running. When you shut the engine off, something's up, and they could tell. So, engine running from a vehicle, don't get out, especially if it's a bear or something. Like, why are you getting out? There's no cell phone reception out here, so just stay in your car. Unless it's a fox and stuff, and it's like whatever, but it might have rabies. But no, I'm just kidding. But I told you at the beginning of this video I would just be rambling. So one more point I'd like to make, well, it's probably not one more, there's probably a couple more as I go, I'll think of them, but you can probably hear, I have the heat cranked right now. This time of year, it's a little bit cool, it's early in the morning. You usually want to go out and drive early in the morning, because your chances of seeing an animal are much greater, or in the evening. And depending on the time of year, it's going to be pretty cold. So if you have the heat cranked, you just have to be very aware that when you wind the window down, you're going to get that weird kind of hazy heat wave thing going on because the air outside is so cold, okay? And you're actually going to see the heat escaping from your vehicle. So it's very important that when you turn that heat down, first of all, when you point your lens out the window, I'm using my right hand to videotape this, so I'll just use my, I'm right-handed by the way, I'll just use my left hand. It's very important that you stick your lens out. Of course, you'd be zoomed in, most likely. Stick your lens out, at least out to the mirror, okay? If you're shooting from in here, at first, for the first like 15 seconds until the cold air actually comes into the vehicle, you do have this weird heat wave, kind of hazy thing happening here. And depending on how far your subject is, your lens will probably just focus right past that, and you'll never notice. Only once have I stood inside the vehicle, and by stood I mean sat inside the vehicle and photographed a bird on a fence, probably only 5 feet away, and it didn't fly away or anything. It just sat there just chirping away, singing its song, and it was just really kind of uncontrasty, kind of weird look to it, and I thought, like, what is wrong with this bird? But I looked at my lens first, like I had fingerprint smears all over it or something, and then it took me a while to figure it out, until somebody that I was shooting with told me, well, it's probably the heat waves coming out of your truck. And come to think of it, that day I had the heat cranked, wind the window down, and fire off a few quick shots. So that's why it's important to crack your window, wind it down. You're wearing a coat, probably, I hope. Just kind of get that even temperature going so you don't run into that, into the deadly heat wave that wrecks pictures. Okay.